Hey, I got a lot to say today. I've been seeing so many posts, well, not so many, but, it's come to my awareness again around, the spiritual bypassing, spiritual arrogance, fucking narcissistics, the whole fucking thing. And this morning especially has been really for a lot of people. Well, I thought it was just me, then other people, and then I bumped into a divine woman at the coffee shop who, she's turned around and she said, "Is there something going on this morning?" I said, "Yeah, I'm about to fucking live stream about it." It's that fucking big going on this morning, that's why. So, I've got a lot of topics to talk about, and this whole kind of, if you've got any questions at any time, please ask me. And I know I've spoken about this topic a while ago and before, but obviously there's need to talk about it again, and it's been quite strong, and there's so many different kind of factors or aspects to this thing that I'm speaking about. And I was going to live stream yesterday about, what's the worst that could happen when you actually take your mask off to the world. I did that on Saturday, but it was kind of spin off from that, because then someone spoke about compromise, and, and I was like, oh, that word compromise, they commented it, but I already jumped off the live stream. Whoops. So I was like, well, I'll live stream on that word tomorrow. Tomorrow came around. I didn't fucking live stream yesterday for various reasons. And so here I am today talking about spiritual bypassing, spiritual arrogance, narcissistic behavior, sabotaging your life purpose, compromise, and, what actually happens when you take off your mask that you show to the world, and, the things that happen around and for and because of that, and, the whole compromising and, wearing, masks, there's, it's kind of twofold, yeah, because there's compromise, but then there's compromise, yeah, and if you break down that word, it's compromise, it's almost con-promise, yeah, it's you're promising something that is kind of not in alignment, not in, your value system and all of that, right? So whilst, we can compromise on what we're going to have for dinner, the compromise on the bigger things in life is something where you need to kind of check in with your values and, see where that is. So this whole thing about the spiritual arrogance and, and what actually compassion and care means, it's it doesn't matter kind of what's going on. It doesn't matter what the fucking situation is. It doesn't matter what the issue is. Compassion and care means that you have a heart that goes, oh fuck, that person's feeling that way. It doesn't matter what it's about. It doesn't matter what's happened in the past. It doesn't matter ultimately. True compassion and care for another human being is, fuck, that person's feeling that way. Your feelings aside, it doesn't matter who fucking, said what or did what or anything like that. It's that person's feeling this way. How, and it's they talk about, what is it, NVC, so nonviolent communication by, what the fuck's his name? I'm thinking Roosevelt, that's not right though. I wonder why he's coming to mind. Wasn't he an American leader, Roosevelt or something? Why is that name coming to mind? I didn't bring my iPad. Can somebody Google that or tell me? Roosevelt, is that how you even say it? Or Roosevelt? Why is that coming to mind? So the compassion and the care, what was I just talking about there? I just got interrupted with my thoughts and my stream. It always happens. And then I usually Google it and I'm like, oh, that's why. I'm curious about Roosevelt being... I'm pretty sure he was an American president, wasn't he? A long time ago. Can someone tell me? I'm not up with that sort of history. So the reason I was saying that, and where I got Franklin D. Roosevelt, yes. He was an American president, wasn't he, for a period of time? Okay, so that, right, cool. And then I was talking about nonviolent communication, and I can't think of the author of that. Oh, Rosenberg. Roosevelt. Rosenberg is the nonviolent communication guy, right? And, you know, I have a right to talk about narcissistic behavior, spiritual arrogance, spiritual bypassing, and then compassion and care, because I've fucking been those parts. And if you read my blog last Monday, Tuesday, you would see that I fucking do, you know, I've been that person. And you'll see in my blog last week that I wrote that, you know, like I've attracted people into my life recently that are and being that person to me. And it's fucking killed me, to be honest. And here I am talking, you know, about the sabotage of your life purpose. Okay, thanks, Catherine. I really appreciate that. So American statesman and political leader who serves as 32nd President of the United States. Yeah, right. Maybe that will come into more information why that name came to mind. I appreciate you finding that information for me. You know, like, and the sabotage, the number one sabotage for my life purpose that fucking pulls me off path every single time. And I'm saying this with, like, I don't know what I'm saying it like. Sabotage can have a kind of bad, negative connotation to the word, right? However, when we can catch sabotage before it pulls us right off path, sabotage can be a fucking great thing, because it actually shows us where our, you know, like where we're going off path, right? So this whole thing about compromise, spiritual arrogance, spiritual bypassing, all of that ultimately is like, you know, okay, and the masks, right? So the thing with compromising and the masks is they're the first two things that start happening when you start sabotaging your life purpose, right? So when you start putting on a mask to wear a specific role to get acceptance from another person in your life, that's when you started to put these masks on, right? So if you watch my live stream on Saturday, you'll see that I talked about all these masks, and we wear all these masks so that we can be accepted by people, but then we just forget who we really are, right? So as soon as we, okay, and we're talking about relationships, right? Talking about stepping into a relationship. So from my, and I have a right to talk about this because it's my own personal experience, and it's exactly why I teach what I teach, so that you guys don't make the same fucking mistakes. Same with Trusted Intuition. If you know, are in that course and you're going through it and you've done my Trusted Intuition course, you'll know that I fucking created that so that you don't make the same mistakes I did, and you don't have to go through the same fucking hell that I did, right? So staying true to your purpose, yeah, 100%. It's 100%, right? It keeps you in alignment, right? And what actually happens when we take off the mask we show to the world, what actually happens when we, you know, like don't compromise on, you know, the person we are or the life we're living or who we are, is if we fucking stay in alignment to our life purpose. How do we find our life purpose? We start removing these masks. And, you know, when you feel that aliveness and that joy, that's when you know that you're on life purpose. And everyone and everything that comes, you know, that is, you know, meant to be on your path will fucking be there. It's when we start wearing these masks and all of this is, you know, exactly where we start going off path, because it's like, I guess that's why they call them shadows, yeah? And we work with shadow work in the throat chakra. It's like, you know, we put on these masks and these are the shadows. It's like we can't see who we really are, right? Now, this causes all sorts of fucking shit in relationship. So that whole, you know, okay, let's talk about spiritual arrogance. So spiritual arrogance and spiritual bypassing are very, very similar. If, you know, like the spiritual bypassing and spiritual arrogance are in a sense of, you know, and a narcissist. Let's just put that in there too, because, okay, spiritual arrogance is expecting everything to be perfect, yeah? Spiritual bypassing is not doing your inner work and thinking that you're better than somebody else, and, you know, and pretty much fucking, you know, telling everybody how it should be rather than looking at yourself. Narcissistic behavior is very similar. but you can't, there's nothing, when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, there's nothing that you can say or do that is right. Everything you say and do is wrong. You feel like the worst person in the world. Your self-esteem just goes like down into the mud, and like you never fucking see it again. Like it can borderline on, abuse. It's like every time you share something from your, being, even, gets to a point where you don't even say anything and you're doing something wrong just for fucking being there, right? And, when I Googled narcissistic behavior last week, because I actually wrote about it in my blog, that I have a fucking right to talk about this and know exactly all about it, because I used to be that person. And now recently, I've just copped the receiving end of that person, and it's fucking killed me. And I think I speak about this so much, but I've had so much regret and remorse about how I was, specifically in relationship to my ex several years ago. And, and I'm like, wow, have I always been that person? And when I actually Googled narcissistic behavior last week, when I was like writing my blog, and then I was like, I've been called a narcissist, and I'm like, what is actually the definition of narcissist? So I Googled it, and I was just like, fuck me dead, I'm like, yes, I have been in a relationship as a narcissist, and now on the receiving end of a narcissist, and I'm just like, it's literally killed me. And you talk about the number one sabotage for my life purpose is relationships. And then there's another kind of depth to this, everything that I'm talking about, right? Because ultimately, I say that relationships are a sabotage to my life purpose. Well, I think the wrong relationships are the sabotage to my life purpose. And the whole thing of sorry, I just lost my train of thought then. Okay, so the depth of the relationship. So the thing, okay, so I'm saying that relationships are the sabotage to my life purpose. The actual part of the relationship that's a sabotage to my life purpose is when, and you might relate to this. If you follow my work, you're probably highly sensitive. You're probably very fucking intuitive. You probably receive a lot of, could be an empath, could be a highly sensitive person. You're probably all of those, right? So in relationship, especially with people, right? So you might know who's texting you before you even pick up the phone. You might be thinking about someone and then they call, all that sort of thing. It's like if you resonate with any of those, you're probably going to understand what I'm talking about here. So Catherine says, oh yes, yeah, relationships suck. Yeah, love is like a fight. If you push too hard, you'll find shit. That's so funny. That's so funny. So I've never heard that before. That is pretty fucking true, right? So with the whole thing, right? So if you resonate with any of those that I just said, it is that, for me, and this is my own personal experience, that I'm getting very fucking clear, and even more clear now that, I will not kind of, compromise or anything like that. And I think that I kind of fell into this space recently because of all my remorse, regret, realizations about how I used to be such a narcissist to my ex in a relationship, and how fucking bad I still feel for that, right? Feel about being that sort of person. And now, and because of that, it's kind of like, okay, well, I get into a relationship and then I've got to fucking, be this person and stretch myself, which I have been and have been doing. And I know, and I kind of look back and I don't regret any single part of it. Even though it's been fucking hard at times, I don't regret one single part. Why? Because it felt right in my heart at the time. And that's the same with my entire fucking life, right? The thing that is going on here is that I've come to realize in myself, and you might be going like, well, duh, Hannah, of course, right? However, for me, I guess, I don't know what the correct word is, but anyway, I guess the point is what I'm saying is that when I become aware of something, consciously intuitive, and that's picking up the energy, right? Bang, it's fucking spot on. If you've got a tarot reading from me before, if you have done any sort of work with me before, you know that I'm bang spot on, right? When I get tripped up in myself is that when I'm in relationship with somebody and I feel the energy and I talk about it, and then I get blamed for it, which I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see my part. Yep, this is my part. Sorry about that. This is what I'm doing about it. And then for me, it shifts. And maybe it's not the same for everybody. I understand that. However, when I'm continually being the one being blamed for that, that's now shifted for me, like that doesn't resonate with me. And for me, my number one sabotage was, you know, for my life purpose, if I'm in a relationship with somebody and there is shit in the space between us and it is not shifting and it cannot shift, that is what will fucking, that is what will shit me. That is what will fucking sabotage me. Because when there is shit in between a relationship, whether it is my intimate partner, whether it's a friend in my life, whether it's a work colleague, whether it's something, when I can feel energy between, you know, me and another person and it's not fucking nice, I need to fucking call it out. I need to be able to step up and say, hey, what's going on here? Like, you know, this and work it out. And like I said, for me, you know, it gets to a point, you know, I think in a, I don't know what you want to call it, awareness, or when you're consciously aware, or you do personal development and all that sort of stuff, if you know, like sometimes we have to meditate, you know, and then it gets to a point where we're kind of meditating while we're walking, or we, you know, can really tune in, or we receive intuition without meditating, right? So as you grow, evolve in your personal awareness and your consciousness, you become more conscious. You can't stop, you can't fucking, can't just block that shit off. Well, you can, but you're probably gonna, I don't know. Anyway, you can't turn it off once it starts, right? And the more that you trust it and do that, the more that it, you know, gets stronger, as you know, right? So when I, you know, if I have something in the space between me and another person and it's not getting resolved, that will just fucking floor me, and I just can't do my work. I can't function in life. And I was actually speaking to another powerful divine woman yesterday, actually, and she said exactly the same thing. And I was like, oh, fuck, you know, thank you. Because it was like, I started questioning my own self. And this makes me fucking sad that I got to this point. In a sense of, you know, like, yes, there's owning your shit. Yes, there's fucking facing it and doing something about it. Burying it is just fucking not an option for me, because I can't bury shit, you know. And what happens when you bury stuff? Yeah, you awaken your past spiritual amnesia. Exactly. Yeah, once it's awakened, you can't fucking go back, right? It's what we're here on the planet for, to, you know, evolve and wake up and grow. But yeah, like when that stuff's in the space, I literally cannot function, right? Everything in my life suffers in that space, and I've just kind of realized, you know, like my sabotage to my life purpose is, you know, relationships. And, you know, I was so fucking scared about coming on this live stream and even talking about this, because I'm like, well, I'm fucking teaching calling in your soulmate. And, you know, and I'm like, well, yeah, that's why, Hannah. And I realized this morning, and it just gave me the confidence and courage to get the fuck on here and talk about it real time, just like I always fucking do, because this is who I am. And, you know, it's like, I teach these courses so that you don't make the same fucking mistakes that I do. Exactly why I fucking teach them, right? I've been to fucking hell and back. I've not wanted to be on the planet. And by the way, I was actually going to do a separate live stream on it, but it's all in the same, you know, like at least once a week, at least minimum once a week. I have people private message me and tell me that they don't want to be on the planet anymore, that they want to commit suicide. And, you know, and it's been happening more and more regularly, and I'm like, fuck. And I'm like, why are these people reaching out to me? Like, it was only, you know, in the past few days, I started, you know, for me it's normal, right? In a sense of like, you know, someone tells me they don't want to be on the planet anymore and they don't want to, and they, you know, want to commit suicide. I don't turn around and go, oh, fuck, you know, don't do that, you know, whatever. Like, I don't have any fear about it. Do you know what I say to them? Do you know what I fucking say to them when somebody tells me that? I said, fuck, it's so dark. I know that feeling. I said, it's so dark. Nothing will pull you out of this. I'm hearing, you know, I'm grateful that you reached out to me, but I'm so hearing that in this dark space, you don't want to fucking do anything. Don't want to be here. Nothing can fix you. Nothing can change it. Totally hear you. And do you know what happens when I say that to somebody? They fucking shift. They absolutely fucking shift. That is compassion. That is compassion for how that person is feeling. Not like, oh, well, you're in that place because you made those choices. That is spiritual arrogance. That is spiritual bypassing. I'm right, you're wrong, sort your shit out, don't want to fucking know you, bye. Do you think that is what will make someone go and fucking top themselves? You know, and I've been questioning that a lot lately about, you know, like why, you know, well, just in the past couple of days, I was like, why am I getting these people quite regularly now? And I actually felt really honoured, to be honest, that people are reaching out to me, private messaging me, saying they don't want to be on the planet anymore. When they're in their darkest days, who do they reach out to? Me. Why? Because I've fucking been there, and they obviously unconsciously know on some form of level that I can hold such a dark space. And the most powerful fucking light workers on the planet are the ones who can hold that darkness and see it for what it is, and know and feel in their heart the compassion and the care, and that love and compassion and compare is what shifts that person back into the light, is what shifts that person, is that tiny bit of understanding, tiny bit of compassion, tiny bit of care. That's all it takes to shift somebody. Not, oh, well, you got in that place because that's your fault and you need to change this and go sort your shit out, don't want to know you. That's the spiritual arrogance, that's the spiritual bypassing. And yes, I'm saying it again because I'm so fucking passionate about it, because that used to be me. And maybe I walked that path so that I can now be on this end. And in specifically in personal relationship, I've now understood what it feels like. You know, like before I got, into a recent relationship, it's like this space of, I already was starting to tap into quite deeply actually at the start of this year, the fucking remorse and the regret of how I used to treat my ex in relationship, like really fucking big time, yeah? And now I've been on the receiving end of what that feels like. It's like, oh, fuck, yeah, I was starting to have an understanding. You know when you change things in your life and you start to think positive or you do whatever, but it starts with your awareness. Starts with changing patterns, thought patterns, all that sort of thing, and then it's the body feeling, yeah? So we have that experience of it. So it's kind of like, I'm like, oh, like, and I knew, and the whole thing, that I had so much kind of, I guess, fear about getting on here and being fucking real about what I've been going through is because I'm teaching calling in your soulmate, right? And whilst, the reason that I'm here talking about it is because I worked through the why I'm teaching calling in your soulmate and why I created Trust Your Intuition is because I don't want people to make the same mistakes. That's my passion. I want to teach them what I've learned, okay? Because this is your life purpose, about teaching people your life purpose, what you've been, I've been there on the receiving end, baby. Yeah, it's fucked, man. It is fucked. But, and the whole thing about me teaching calling in your soulmate is so you don't make the same mistakes. And I forgot, the reason when I processed all this morning, and I'm now here talking to you about it because I wasn't going to. But what made me get up and talk to you about it is that this is who I am, this is my life, and the one major thing is that I forgot. And if you want to know what your life purpose is, here it is. Are you ready for this? You might want to write this fucking down. If you want to know what your life purpose is, it is your fucking life. Yeah? It's you. And any fucking mask that you've got on about that is taking you just that one step away from it, right? Because what I forgot and that I remembered this morning and that made me fucking do this live stream now is that I forgot that when I get intuitive thoughts about creating something, it's almost like that's the evolution of my personal journey and consciousness, right? So that I can grow as a spiritual being. So that, because this is all about me, right? Yeah, our life purpose is about service and giving and blah, 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 blah. Yes and no, right? But when we're naturally living our life and being who we are, we're in service to ourselves, therefore we're in service to the world. And the one thing that I forgot that made me get up and do this live stream right now is that when I get intuitive thoughts to create something, whether it's write a book or a course or something, yeah, because the how calling in your soulmate came through was when I was just about finishing Trust Your Intuition and I got that full download. It was just like a ding. I was just like, fuck, I got to write this down. And like all 5 modules came through. It was like, ding, 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 ding. It was like, oh yeah, cool, right. Let that sleep for a minute because I've got to finish Trust and Intuition. And, you know, the thing about life purpose and, you know, why, you know, what I'm teaching and the thing that I forgot that I remembered is that when I am creating such a course, I'm fucking living it, baby. I'm fucking walking through the whole fucking thing. 100%. 100 fucking percent. And this is my life experience. This is my life purpose. This is what I'm here to be and offer of service is what I am and who I am and what I walk through. And that is why people have messaged me. I don't know how they know. They just message me and say, I don't want to be on the planet anymore. They message me and say, oh, I want to take my life. And I sit there and I go, honey, I know it's so fucking dark right now and I'm here with you. And they shift. If I can shift. Of course, there's a bit more conversation. But because I hold them and they must know that I can feel that space, yeah? Or something. I don't know what it is. They know that I keep it fucking real because being a fucking spiritual teacher, being, you know, like this spiritual arrogance is about, you know, everything's got to be perfect and I'm better and, you know, go and sort your shit out. I don't want to fucking know you. That's perfection. Perfection doesn't fucking exist. The most powerful light workers on the planet are the ones that can hold the most light, and the ones that can hold the most light are the ones that can hold the most darkness. Yeah? I think it's, what is it? It's Smoky Quartz, I think. If anyone's on live stream who has a liquid crystal book in their hand, can you please let me know? I'm pretty sure it's Smoky Quartz. Well, that's what's intuitively coming through anyway. I trust that. I think it's Smoky Quartz, and it says in the book about Smoky Quartz and the liquid crystals that something about it holds like the darker pieces of Smoky Quartz. Maybe I'm getting it wrong with something else. But the darker I don't know if it is this one now. But the darker, it holds a lot of darkness because the ones that hold the most darkness are the ones that can hold the most light or something like that, you know? And I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense. The Heart's Whisperer. In what way is the Heart's Whisperer, Corey? Can you expand on that, please? What you mean there? So that's like, you know, I've kind of been a bit sidetracked, but I was jumping, but I obviously have said what I wanted to say. Oh yeah, so that's the whole thing about, you know, coming into this space of like, you know, I'm like releasing the shame and judgment that, you know, like, well, I'm, you know, living what I'm teaching and is the most powerful thing. And you know what the most funny thing about all of this is, and the fucking timing of it all, is that tomorrow is, you know, the second last live training of Calling in Your Soulmate, and then the next round starts on the 21st of September, so not very long away, another couple of weeks. Is that tomorrow I'm teaching in Module 5 how to step on to life purpose with your partner, right? And what to do about that and how to find it and how you do that, yeah? And it's very interesting that this has kind of, you know, happened for me at this time. And it's like, oh, well, obviously the life purpose part is not there. And for me, the other part that I wanted to share about it is that I think it was, so when we're talking about the darkest parts of each other and being able to hold space, you know, like being in relationship, and for me personally, and maybe it just wasn't in alignment, because for me personally, I value consciousness. I value somebody opening their heart and holding space for another person. I value compassion and care for the whole being, not just the perfect good parts, but all the darkness as well. Yeah? I want an intimate relationship that can hold space and be with, right? Not fix, not be the coach, not any of that. Hold space for the whole spectrum. Yeah? The most lightest parts and the most fucking darkest parts. Because, baby, in relationship, love brings all of that up, right? Everything there, yeah? And I want someone who can go to the depths that I can go to, yeah? True love is loving both the light and the dark in ourselves and in our partner. Yes, 100%, 100%. And, you know, and that's the, you know, that's the truth. That's love and compassion. That's heart space, yeah? Maybe that's talking about there, Corey, with the Heart Whisperer, you know, it is that being in the heart space rather than being here, because this is spiritual arrogance bypassing narcissistic, perfectionist, egotism. This is love. And in love is all of that. In love encompasses that too, yeah? So love sees through that. So the thing that I wanted to say here is that when we can see that within our partner and embrace all of that, that's us loving our shadow. Yeah? So when we've got the darkest parts of our partner being reflected to us, that's our shadow. Yeah? So as if you read my blogs last Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you would know my background and my story about where I'm coming from with this. So if you haven't read my blogs from last Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, you might want to go check them out. I might post the links in the comments when I finish this live stream. That, like I've been questioning why this is happening to me lately in relationship. I've really been questioning. And, as you guys probably know, just went through death and that whole thing, and I'm like, okay, maybe it's that. So I've been having a bit more understanding or stretching myself a bit further, because I'm like, is it that? Is it just trying to figure it out? But about 2 weeks ago, maybe, was it 3 weeks ago? Maybe 2 weeks ago. And I've been questioning, and I'm like, what's going on here? Why am I on the receiving end? What, it was very clear that I feel like my ex in relationship of how I used to be, that narcissistic fucking bitch, yeah? Not loving, no compassion, no care, don't fucking care at all. Don't care how you're feeling, go sort shit out. That's how I used to be, right? And that's why I'd been questioning. I'm like, why the fuck? Why do I, I'm like, okay, cool. And literally, 2 to 3 weeks ago, I can't remember exactly, it obviously in questioning it just dropped in intuitively. It just literally just dropped in, and it was like, I need to forgive him. But it wasn't about forgiving him as such. He is me. This is about me forgiving me, yeah? He's my shadow, yeah? He's the narcissistic one, but that's me, yeah? It's not even about him. This is about me forgiving myself. And when I realized that, it was so clear. I was just like, oh. And then, the next kind of 2 to 3 weeks has just been like, fucking hell. Because, because I realized that, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then it's just kind of fallen apart, and it's like, well, this is, forgiving yourself. Yes, exactly. It's like, because I'm like, this is shadow in action. This is, shadow integration in action. This is, integrating the darkest parts of yourself in action. So because, when I realized that, I was just like, oh, and it's just kind of, and I guess for me, there's been a part of me not wanting to, being very clear about the I guess the bigger picture, or the, I don't know what the word is. Maybe it is bigger picture, or the part that it's played and all of that jazz, right? Because if the reality and the truth about truly calling in your soulmate, and I say this all the time, people think that calling in your soulmate and what I teach is just like looking for that other person and trying to call them in. And like I always say, whilst we specifically do that, it's about fucking calling your soul to the table so that you can clear, so you can really true and be and feel true love. And that true love is here. This here. Yeah? It isn't about finding your soulmate and living a happy life with them. When you do that here, that naturally fucking happens. But whoever turns up in your life, when you actually, call in your soulmate, or actually literally call in a life partner through journaling or whatever the fuck, right? If there is any kind of parts of you that you need to integrate and shadow or whatever the fuck it is, that's who turns up. Yeah, which is exactly what's just happened to me. I know a couple of others that it's happened to, And it's this kind of space of like going, okay, cool. And because I've like been aware of that and, you know, had those realizations 2 weeks ago and the forgiving my shadow and like all this shit, there's been parts of me not wanting to let go or wanting to, you know, face that reality, because I am so fucking in tune, because I do see the bigger picture of things, because I do pick up the energy just like that, and it's always spot on. And the only reason I'll doubt myself is because someone's not willing to own their shit, and then they're blaming me or going, oh no, that's because you did this. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can see how I did that, yep, sorry, but it still fucking sits there because I've, you know, like it's this thing. And, you know, I guess for me, in sharing what I've shared on live stream today, and it felt so important that I was just really fucking real about it, was, you know, the realization that, well, like I said this morning, and I realized, I'm like, well, I live this stuff as I'm creating it. And that's just who I am. It's my life purpose, it's fucking why I'm here. And then the other part of that is, so, you know, like in relationship, it's like, you know, relationship is all about the relationship with yourself and having that care and compassion for yourself. And for me, consciousness, honesty, authenticity, owning your shit and fucking being very conscious of what's in the space between you and your contribution to it is so fucking important to me. And the key thing about what actually happens when you take off your masks that you put to the world. So if you do any sort of personal development work, doesn't matter if it's with me or somebody else, or you've read some personal development book, you're starting to remove these masks, right? That's what happens, yeah? And, you know, and when you start to remove these masks, that's when, you know, they kind of sit there in the physical world, and someone will physically turn up as that person so that you can work through physically about it. So it's the same thing. You have the realization, you're like, oh, so there's the mask that disappears. Then as the experience in the body leaves your body, someone will turn up reflecting that to you so that you can learn to integrate that and, you know, forgive and, or, you know, integrate that. And then that will either, you know, shift the relationship or it will shift out of your life, yeah? The other thing that I just wanted to say there, what was it? It was just in my head. Does anyone have any questions about that? It was a big long live stream, but I had to be fucking real about it. Oh yeah, because the other thing was this morning that made me jump on and fucking say all this on live stream, which I was scared about and didn't want to. And I was like, nah, man. I'm like, I can't fucking move forward for another 3 weeks or more pretending. Like, no. I'm like, the fucking reality is that things will disintegrate around you when you remove your mask, because you're being who you are. And when you stay conscious to that and don't put on any masks to feel accepted by any person or a situation or anything like that, that's when you can, you know, that's when your intuition is the clearest. That's when you have the most awareness. That's when you are fully on your life purpose, when you're able to, you know, like have, it's like I can't describe the feeling of it, but it beams from within you out, yeah? And it's like that, you know, your intuition is the most clearest when you keep removing these masks and keep integrating them, yeah? So because of all of this and, you know, and this kind of integration that I have had about like the abuser within me, is just going to fucking, like I can already feel what's the word? It's not, well, it's magnificence, but it's the magnitude is the word I'm looking for. I can feel the magnitude of the realizations, the shifts, and the integration of everything that I've just fucking spoken about on this live stream. So if you've just joined this live stream, you need to go rewatch. So all these people showing up again, reflecting stuff that I thought was bloody gone. I shifted stuff, then all this stuff back. Yeah, so it's just the integration, yeah? It's literally the integration. And the forgiving of self. So I know you just jumped on, Tabitha, I'm not sure where you heard me to, but if you watch the whole live stream, you'll understand, it will make sense, but basically it's about forgiving you. But it's this person who's turned up as who you used to be, you know, it's not about forgiving them, it's when you get the realization that it's about forgiving you, and then that will, you know, energetic. You shift, and I just got goosebumps saying that because it just feels so fucking big. Because when we do compromise too, I feel like I need to touch on that word again. You know, we compromise, we're like, oh, okay, yeah, well, you know, that's cool. Like, do that. It's kind of like there's a mask almost, yeah? Because there's fear. You're welcome, Tabitha. There's fear that you will be rejected, basically. Yeah, rather than, you know, loving all of you, loving all of who you are, loving all of that, yeah? So, if nobody's got any questions, if you're watching the replay of this, please comment below if you got any questions, because it was pretty fucking huge. And yeah, calling in your soulmate, like I said, the next round opens on the 21st September. So yes, it is about calling your soul, but if you've been in a thing where you're just like, you know, attracting the same relationships and you don't know how to shift that, this shit in calling in your soulmate fucking shifts it, right? Because I've lived it, and it's just fucking, it's what happens. If you really want to call your soul to the table and to really like release all those masks that are, you know, holding you back, and continually sitting there in your energetic field, this is the way to do it. So I'll post a link in the comments, and if you've got any questions, like I said, please comment on live stream or send me a private message. I'm happy to help you, especially if you're in a dark place, because I've fucking been there. I can hold it for you and help you to shift out of it. So remember to keep it really real. Lots of love. Namaste.